Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today, and I have a review here finally for Terrifier 3. I think I'm the last person on the planet to finally discuss this movie after its release in October. I went to my mom's house this past weekend to spend a day with her because my wife was doing a baking day with some friends here at our house. So my mom found out that Terrifier 3 was up for streaming to rent, and we went ahead and paid that $20, dude, because we both thought it'd be totally worth it, being hardcore fans of the series. Now, I wanted to see it in the theaters. I planned everything I could to see it in theaters because Part 1, which is still my favorite, did not go to theaters. It went straight to streaming and straight to video back in the day, being an indie movie. And Part 2 came out in theaters, but I couldn't get the available time to go see it. This is also excellent. The first time I saw it and I made my review on the channel, I wasn't in love with it. I thought it was really good, but I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. But after watching this a couple of times ever since, over the last couple of years since it came out, I've really gotten into Terrifier 2. Really, really great film, even though Part 1's still my favorite. Now, Terrifier 3 I wanted to see in the theaters, but again, I got so sick that I knew if I went to the theater and I was coughing nonstop on release week, or even the next couple of weeks after that, because I was sick for like 3 weeks coughing, I didn't want to ruin it for other people, so I didn't do that. I just kept waiting and waiting. Then my mom had a surgery, couldn't go because of that, so I missed it, which is sad. I plan on trying to see Terrifier 4 and 5 if they come out in theaters, in the damn theaters, because I really want to see it so bad on a big screen. But anyway, now getting to Terrifier 3, Damien Leone comes back to write and direct, and I think he also did the practical effects again, because these are filled with practical effects for the kills and whatnot. And once again, those effects look amazing. Truly amazing. A little more cartoonish than usual, compared to 1 and 2, but still amazing nonetheless. I guess where I could start with this is that we pick up immediately, and this is going to be a little bit of spoiler territory for Terrifier 2 in case you haven't seen it and you just want to hear my thoughts on this movie. This is a spoiler-free review for Terrifier 3. We pick up right after the ending of Terrifier 2, when Art the Clown has been decapitated, a police officer finds his headless body. The headless body gets up, takes that guy's head, and holds it in place as he rides the fucking subway, or the bus, or whatever it was, to get back to, where was it? I guess to the asylum, where Vicky is being held, where she just gave birth to Art's head. Art's head is eating the throat of the lady who came in the room at the end of Terrifier 2. Vicky is eating her guts, I think is what it was. Anyway, they escape after they kill the wrestler Chris Jericho, who is a massive security attendant there at the asylum. It was cool to see him too. I love Chris Jericho. Grew up watching him back in the old days in like the 2000s, early 2000s, like 2006 I think was when I got into wrestling. Yeah, I was a late comer, I guess you could say. But anyway, it was cool to see Chris Jericho get brutalized. They escape and they go to a house that Art the Clown, we don't know if he lived there or what. We don't really know anything about this house, but I assume he lived there, grew up there, did his murders he possibly did back in the day there. And he and Vicky basically go into a hibernation for 5 years. And I don't want to tell you too much about the hibernation thing. It kind of goes along with Terrifier 2 of being more in the supernatural realm than Terrifier 1 ever was. And there's a lot of fan theories and discussions about that. I don't really know where I stand on that. I don't really care. I just want more info about all this stuff. And I gotta tell you, I wish 3 gave us more hints and actual answers about what Art the Clown is, what Vicky is for that matter, because there's a lot of discussion on what Vicky is in this movie, in the sense of more hints than anything, which I thought were super bizarre, but I don't want to get into that yet. But Art the Clown, not so much. So if you're expecting a bunch of answers about the whole Chosen One thing from Terrifier 2 about Sienna, you ain't getting it in here, even though Sienna and Jonathan come back. But now, we skip the 5 years, now we're in the future, I guess, at this point. It would be past 2024. It would have to be like, what, 2027? Something like that if it was 5 years later from 2022. Anyway, so Sienna has been in a wellness center, which is a nice way of saying fucking modern-day asylum. And she is now schizophrenic after all the things she witnessed in Part 2. And it could be some of the supernatural things that happen with her being revived from the dead, all of that kind of stuff. But she's seeing things like her best friend from Part 2 who was killed in a very American Werewolf in London type of way, like the person criticizing her across the dinner table type of way. But it's Christmas time. This is a Christmas movie, and I was super excited about that. It's not a Halloween film like Part 1 and Part 2, so that was a cool element and setting for this movie. And a lot of that is utilized very well. I'll get to that in a moment. But Sienna, you know, the love of my life, Lauren Lavera, and she is, you know, there are two women in this world that I would, you know, go after. And that is Scarlett Johansson and Lauren Lavera, who plays Sienna. Dude, she is so sexy. I love that chick. But she's a great actress, in my opinion, with a script this time around that doesn't give her enough to do, in my personal opinion. It kind of is like that for everybody, but I'll get to that as well later on in the writing discussion. But Sienna comes back, and she actually is picked up by her uncle, and she goes to live with her uncle, who looks like Freddie Prinze Jr., her aunt, who reminds her so much of her mom, and her little cousin that she's always been very close with. And since Sienna got locked up, her brother is now in college, which is wild. Jonathan, like I said, the actor playing him, comes back for this role. But he and Sienna kind of had a falling out after part 2, and after she's been locked away in this wellness center. I don't think they ever said how long she had been in that asylum place or whatever. So there could be more about that. I don't know. But anyway, basically Sienna is staying with this family, and Jonathan's supposed to come in from college for the Christmas break and whatever to spend time with this kind of newly found family. And the uncle and aunt are a little nervous about what's going on with Sienna mentally. They know she's on medication. They know she's schizophrenic. There could be more happening, and they're scared that maybe this could go wrong, but they're going to test the waters and do it because they love her. And apparently they've always been kind of close with Sienna's mom and dad when the dad was still around. Now, this movie's kind of plotless. You know, a lot of people trash us slasher fans and slasher movies in general for being plotless, just being endless gore and blood. And I would argue 1 and 2 were not just endless gore and blood. They had a story, they had an emotional atmosphere, they had a great soundtrack to accompany all of that. And we would watch Art the Clown do things as our main characters, like Sienna, or in the previous original movie, Vicky, kind of just do their thing. You know, they would go to Halloween parties and whatever. And that may not be a heavy plot, but it fell into a plot that I think actually mattered. Terrifier 3 doesn't really have a story. It's just kind of the family getting together for Christmas, Jonathan doing his own thing, and then Art the Clown and Vicky doing things. One of the things that really bummed me out, the Pale Girl from Terrifier 2, which I thought was an amazing addition to the series. I love the Pale Girl. I don't know why they didn't have her in here. You could argue she is in here, but I don't want to get into that. That's a spoiler territory. But I loved her, and I'm really sad that she's not in this. At least as far as I can tell. Physically, she's not there, you know, is what I'm trying to say. But she's not here, and that's a bummer, because that actress did a great job. That little girl killed it in Terrifier 2. One of the best adds-on to the whole series, in my opinion. So that was sad. But this time, Vicky and Art are going around buddy-buddy and doing things to people. And that was super fun, because not only do you have Art the Clown who could just tear your arm off, now you have this broad, deformed and scary as she is, doing the same shit. She could tear your leg off while he's tearing your arm off, and it's kind of frightening in that respect. We don't have a plot, so it's really just those two wandering around, Jonathan wandering around, and then Sienna and the family talking about Christmas, and Sienna's issues, and her bonding with her little cousin all over again. And all of that's nice, but it's not enough, story-wise. For a 2-hour-long movie, it's not enough for me. I'm glad this was just 2 hours and not 2.5 like Terrifier 2 was. I love Terrifier 2. It's grown on me a lot, but it's still too long. It doesn't feel long when you watch it, but it is too long, I think, for a movie with that kind of idea, that story concept. By the way, this movie's made an insane amount of money. I think it was made for like $2 million, and it made, what, 46 or 64 million, something like that at the box office. That's before merchandise. And if you go to Spirit Halloween, it's basically the Art the Clown store at this point, and the Trick or Treat store. But mainly Art the Clown store at these recent years. And it's amazing how much Art has become an enormous horror icon. And it deserves it, I think. Damien, the creator, deserves it. He really does, because of all the cool stuff he did with the series so far. Terrifier 3, despite the issues that I have, it's got a lot of good stuff in here. Let's get on, I guess, to the writing. The writing is a very big mess in a lot of ways. Again, all of the supernatural stuff from part 2 are not explained. I'm okay with that, but I need more hints than what I got here. And I don't know, I went back and forth. Is it a fan thing? Is it just I want more? Or is it more of a they didn't give me enough type of thing? And I'm leaning more towards they didn't give me enough info about what happened in 2 and why the things happened in 2 that happened. But again, there could be 1 or 2 more sequels coming out according to Damien Leone. I don't think there's a doubt they're being made, but things can go wrong. I'm excited about those being released at some point. I'm excited for the actors and actresses. I hope they continue to keep returning, the people who are still alive by the end of this movie, let's say. Because that would be awesome, you know, because I love these people. I really do. I love the cast. I love Damien's work as the director and writer and practical effects artist. I love all that stuff. I really do. Now, the writing is a mess, though. The kid playing Jonathan is not the best actor ever, but the writing they gave him doesn't really help him to be better. Same thing for Sienna. Sienna does not have better writing than in part 2. She's kind of boring in here. And I feel bad for Lauren Rivera because she's a great, talented actress, and she's to the point for me that I would watch anything she does, horror or otherwise, because of how much I like her. Then you have Art and Vicky, who get the highlights of the movie. But Vicky, let's talk about her really quick. Yes, she's kind of substituting for the pale girl. Yes, I'm okay with that. It's the writing of Vicky. They hint to some of the things about her, and I'm interested in those things of what could be happening, but the physical dialogue they have her actually saying is so cringe. It's like, I am not some weird puss about foul language. I'm just not. But when you have somebody that you're modifying the voice of, like she's not just a girl's voice like she was in the previous 2 films, they have her like in a violent, very demonic way trying to speak, and then they modify that to be more bassy sometimes in the audio post-production. She cusses in these weird ways, like she'll throw out an F-bomb here and there, and it's kind of like what I feel like Art the Clown would be like if he talked, but it's not at the same time. I don't like what Vicky does in here. I don't like her general voice, like the design of it in post-production. I don't like the modification of it, and I don't like the dialogue they gave her. I just don't. That's just me. I think it's too sloppy and boring. At one point, she asks the character if they were the one, this person's a kid, if they were the one who wrapped a present. The kid says yes, and she's like, shitty job, like Batman. It's fucking horrible. I hate that. I'm sorry, it's just a creative choice that I don't like. But there were some great moments in here. One in particular that I loved. Apparently Art the Clown, I don't know if it was implying that he does believe in Santa Claus, like actually, which was bizarre if he does, but I think it was a joke that he doesn't really. He goes into a bar because he sees a guy dressed up from the mall as Santa Claus. And he goes into this place, in this bar, not being able to talk, and he's fawning over this guy and wants to sit on Santa's lap and everything. And this man is actually a good guy. Like, he seems like that he's kind of okay with that. Maybe he thinks Art is mentally challenged, I don't know. But it was kind of sweet, and then it devolves into insane, funny shit that made me laugh so hard. I am so glad people did not spoil this movie for me, even if I think easily, by the way, that it's the weakest of the 3 movies. Hands down, no questions asked. That scene in the bar was wonderful. You have a scene later on in the movie where Art is dressed up as Santa Claus. He goes to the mall and is handing out presents to kids in the Santa's chair, throne, whatever, in the mall. That scene was kind of just whatever at the beginning. When it ended, that scene, and what happened there, I laughed my ass off. Probably shouldn't, but I did, because it was hilarious to me. One of the funniest things in the film, involving a child opening a present. It was great. The film has extreme dark humor, as many of you would obviously know from that. The kills are phenomenal in here. I really, really like them. One that everybody kept talking about, I won't spoil, but it is a shower kill. And that one was a great callback, or at least one of that was a great callback to the original Terrifier film, one of the most iconic kills in horror from that movie. Thought that was awesome. It was pretty wild, you know? I like some of the surrounding characters. There's like a roommate to Jonathan at college that has a girl that runs a podcast that he's dating, and she is so fine, by the way. They do a whole thing with her in the movie that I thought was kind of interesting too. She was a good supporting character, and the actress was good. A lot of these people, just in general, were pretty decent in these side roles. It's our main cast that I think get gypped a little bit on what they do with the story here. Damien is still writing the films. The things that I'm complaining about, not so much like the dialogue for Vicky, but things like the story, supernatural stuff, answering what happened in Terrifier 2, that stuff could be answered in the future. So that could make or break whether this movie is worse in the future for me or better in the future for me. Just giving you a heads up on that, because I had a little bit of that with Terrifier 2. Terrifier 2 proved to be really good the more that I've rewatched it. This is a little bit different from that. This is something that, again, the future of the movies could break this one and make me never want to watch it and just stick with the first 2. It's just possible, I'm just saying. One of the other things that I want to bring up too, I had some people recommend to me that as a Christian I was probably going to be bothered by some of the imagery in here because some of it is very blasphemous. And at first I saw a moment, kind of in a vision scene for Sienna, that I was like, oh, this person must have thought I was Catholic, not Christian, so I could see why they would say that to me. No, there is some stuff later on that will offend all Christians, Catholics probably too, that was kind of shocking to me that they did that in this movie. But it was ballsy, I'm not gonna lie. I don't like horror for the satanic imagery. I don't really like it for that. I don't really like it for being ballsy enough to throw the middle finger up at the popular whatever. I don't really care about that. I love horror films because they can be fun. I take them as like an amusement park ride. And if you do something creatively well, blasphemous or not, I'm going to give you props on it. Even as a Christian, I will do that. I don't think I should, but I do, because I can't resist well-done creativity. And some of the stuff in here was genuinely shocking. Even as a Christian, it was, for the kind of blasphemous stuff people are talking about in it. And I'm not surprised it's in there, because it's a Christmas film. Why would you not do that, I guess? I wouldn't, but other people would, and I can kind of understand why they would do that. But, yeah, it was pretty wild. I don't think my mom liked it very much, is what I want to say. But we both, at the end of the day, we liked this movie. I thought it was cool for what it was. I thought it was good for what it was. But it's easily the weakest of the three, and one of the biggest contributing factors to that, for me personally, was the fact that the soundtrack is mostly old classic Christmas music. I think one of those being a Bing Crosby song, maybe two of them. Number one, I was surprised because of rights issues that was in there for licensing. I don't know, maybe they had some public domain songs more than I realized. But they didn't have this new wave, synth wave soundtrack that Terrifier 2 had that was so amazingly 80s. And I'm hoping that Damien and I keep saying Volume 4. I just reviewed some comic stuff on my other channel, so I keep calling everything a volume. But in Terrifier 4 and 5, I'm hoping he doesn't just drop the synthwave stuff altogether like it was some kind of passive trend over the years, because it wasn't. I think that made Terrifier. Terrifier 2 probably has the best soundtrack I've heard since Drive or The Guest. It really does. I think it's the best thing about that movie, easily, even though I love Sienna. But there's some great cameos, by the way, in here that are surprisingly great. Of course, I mentioned Chris Jericho, who was also at the end of 2, but Jason Patric, I made a video about how it was announced he was going to be in the movie, and I was thrilled about that. He's Michael from The Lost Boys, in case anybody doesn't know the name Jason Patric. I love Jason Patric. I think Narc is one of his best movies ever. Huge fan of that movie. Ray Liotta's in it too, in case you haven't seen it. Big recommendation for me. But Jason Patric played a really good role in here. For like 2 quick scenes that were basically flashbacks, I absolutely called who he was. I was very thrilled with that because I think it could be great if we keep bringing him back for future movies. He was really good for what he had to do, and I'm really excited to see what they do with him. Having Jason Patric involved makes me excited to see even more of Terrifier, hoping they bring him back more and more because he's such a damn talent. And he proves that here. I've never seen him play this role before, which was good for me, I think, because I love him so much. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about. Oh yeah, I've got one. So when I watched this on streaming with my mom, there was something I have to bring up that I don't know if anybody else had this issue. Maybe it's a streaming issue. When I get the Blu-ray, I'll talk about it because I did pre-order that. I thought that was going to be the first way I'd ever get to see it. I didn't know it went to streaming to rent. But it looked to me like there are scenes with higher frame rate than other scenes. Now this happens a tad bit in Terrifier 1 and 2, but it fits those movies so well and it's so smoothly placed in there that you can't really focus too much on it. In this movie, it was super distracting. Super distracting. Like they tried a higher frame rate sometimes, or that some kind of editing issue happened. That may have been streaming, because I've experienced that before on streaming with other things. It's why I don't like streaming over top of a regular DVD or VHS or Blu-ray or anything like that. So that may or may not be a valid criticism. But if it was something you all experienced too, please let me know that about that situation down below too, because that was super distracting in this movie. I didn't like that. That was almost, you know, people talk about these movies being super gross and disgusting. That was more disgusting and offensive to me than the blasphemous scenes, because that was too out there. But again, that could be a streaming issue. That could be that mild fast forward that sometimes it does. Even though my mom has good internet at her house, because I grew up in that house. I used that internet all the time back in the day. Streaming is getting worse and worse. Does anybody else feel that way? I do. I don't hear enough people say it. But anyway, we need to say it more and more. Get away from streaming. But I think that's everything I had. I'm looking at my list here. I think that's everything I had to bring up to you. Terrifier 3, weakest of the series, but I really liked it. I thought it had a lot of good in it, but again, my opinion of this could go down on rewatches because I could see with so much downtime and so much filler time in this movie, it could easily go worse and worse for me over the years, over rewatches. And again, the future of the series could make or break this movie. This might be the movie that ends up being on the back burner for me because of how much less plot it has in it. But I like the callbacks to Terrifier 2. I like the cameos. I wish we had a better soundtrack like we had in Part 2, instead of just Christmas song after Christmas song that really didn't fit the tone of Terrifier for me, which is strange to say that, because we have one movie that really manages to do that well and 2, and then 1 didn't really have any music. Not really. It had some, like, atmospheric sounds, and that's about it. Ambient noise, is that what we're calling it? I don't know. But Terrifier 3 overall, I really liked it. David Howard Thornton was amazing as Art the Clown, just as usual. Made me laugh my ass off a lot. What I'm here for is Art the Clown and the kills, and now my girl Sienna. And all of that was great, for the most part. I wish we had Pale Girl in here. She was awesome, you know, but that's just me. That's just a mild complaint as a hardcore fan. At the end of the day, if I had to rate this on a 5-star basis, I would probably give Terrifier 3 pretty close to a 4, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go for like a really high 3 out of 5 stars. I think it's very fair that it's at that listing for me. I appreciate that, like, Damien Leone doesn't have politics in here or anything. I'm so used to everything being ruined with that in every franchise and series I love, horror or otherwise, that I just expect everything to be polluted at some point. He doesn't do that, and I love that about this man. He's a great, great talent and a great creator in the horror community that deserves more respect. With how much money this man's drawing in, with how low his budgets are, it's insane. I'm genuinely shocked by that, and I can't wait in the future, God willing I'm alive for it, when we do these horror documentaries like Camp Crystal Lake Memories, or Never Sleep Again, or Halloween 25 Years of Terror, about the Terrifier series. I can't wait for that. You could call it like The Artist, if you will, as the documentary. That's just me. Or like Vicky plus Art could be like the documentary title. I don't know. Anyway, what did you think about Terrifier 3? I had some friends like Horror FFA, go check out his channel, tell me that it was flawed, and I agree heavily, so I would love to hear what other people think down in the comment section down below. Friend or newcomer about this movie. Let me know everything you think. How would you rank the films out from your favorite to your least favorite? Yeah, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and Merry Christmas. Goodbye.